Hey Shooby Doodlers, how are you doing? You know, there is a statement that I often hear kind of from life gurus and things like that, which says that there are more connections in your brain than there are atoms in the universe. And this is entirely wrong. I've even heard a respected philosopher at an event I went to say this, and I took him to task afterwards and he couldn't see it. But look, if you've got a connection, right, and if your connection is just only one atom thick, there have to be two atoms to make that connection. So immediately you've doubled the number of atoms in the universe. It is the number of potential connections in your brain that outnumber the atoms in the universe. This has everything to do with your creativity as an artist. And as an artist, you probably ran away from the maths department, but let me just explain how it all works. Let's think about having just one connection, A to A, and that's all we can do is join the two dots and make one connection. If we have two dots, so we've got A and B, well, we can join them like that. That's one way, or we can join them like that. So that's only two ways. That's one, that's two. Let's think about having three wires. Well, obviously we can join them like that. There are other ways to connect them. So we've got the direct connection, and let's do a little X in there, which means that one then has to join there. Let's do that. This is the other version of that. Do A to C, which means then the B has to B to B. Let's do C across to A. And we've done that, so the only other way is then to go B across to there, which means that has to go there. And let's do that way. We've done that one, haven't we? So that then has to come to there, and that comes to there. And those are all the connections. So here we've got 2 to 2, and here we have 3 connectors will allow for 6 potential connections. Here on in, you're going to have to trust me. So, but there is a thing going on here. This is called factorial. That's 1, and then this is 1 times 2. So that's 2 times 1 equals 2. And here we have 3 to 6 is equal to 1 times 2 times 3. So 2 3s are 6 times 1 is still 6. So if we have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, which will be A, B, C, D, then we're going to need 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. We know that 3 times 2 times 1 is 6, so 6 times 4 equals 24. So this is 4 goes to 24, and this is a straight factorial thing. So when we have 5, then we want to add times this whole number, 24 by 5. So 5 factorial gives us 120. I'm going to need my calculator for the rest. So let's go 6, see what happens. So we know we got 120 times 6 equals, that's going to be 720. Let's say it's going 6, and then we want 7. So we know we've got to multiply 720 by 7. So times 7 equals 5,000. Oh, this is going to be, am I going to fit all this in? 5,040. And then for 8, we multiply that number by 8. Whoa, 40,320. Growing quite big, isn't it? So let's see what happens with 9 times 9 equals, whoa, 362,880. So this is getting an even bigger. It's getting really big very quickly. So if we go for 10, see what we get. That number times 10 equals 3,628,800. These numbers are growing massively, exponentially, in fact. So as you can see, from just a few connections, you can create an enormous number of potential connections. And that number just sweeps up exponentially the more connections that you actually have. Now, can you imagine a fetus inside the womb being put together and getting all those connections in the same place so that we churn out the same kind of people over and over again. It's not going to happen, is it? Some of that wiring is going to just get a little bit mixed up. Some people are wired up with a very mathematical brain, and some people are kind of wired up with a very airy-fairy kind of artistic brain, which allows them to look around and say, hello sky, hello clouds. That allows an artist to interpret the world in a very different way to how a mathematician interprets the world in a series of numbers. It all comes together on this great big spectrum. We like to talk about the spectrum, but today I want to actually talk about a distribution curve. Now, this is something else you may remember from school. A graph. Right, so if we have number of people along this axis, and here we're going to have maths down at this end and art down at this end, and we're going to interview people to see whether they lean towards maths or art. And you're going to get, you may remember, look, this distribution curve that goes like that, standard distribution curve. So down here you've got the very mathematical people, and these will be geniuses. And up here you've got artistic genius as well. Not much good for anything else probably. But in the middle, then you got your average Joe. They don't know much about art, but they know what they like. They don't know much about math, but they can add 2 and 2. So we'll start from your average Joe. As you come down this way, then people are getting more and more mathematically minded, until they're kind of down here at mathematical genius level. And then coming down here, people are becoming more and more artistic until you get to an artistic genius. So if we take a little section from here, and we take that little section of population who are kind of quite artistic, we put them on their own graph. So we're going to put the number of people. So we have quite artistic to, let's call it very artistic. Again, we're going to get this standard distribution curve from people who are quite artistic to very artistic. You can also look at that and you'll get a standard distribution curve again, and you might find here, so down at this end you've got people who like abstract painting and all they're really into is splodging colour around the place, and down at this end you've got people who are into very detailed drawing. But in the middle, you've got Joe again, another Joe, an artistic Joe, who likes to do a little bit of painting and a bit of drawing. And they're your kind of normal, middle-of-the-road kind of people at this level of artistic ability. And all these extremes come about through wiring, okay, and potential connections. So what does all this mean to you as an artist, or even as a mathematician? It means that you are wired up in a very particular individual way, and you are not really like any other individual on the whole of the planet. You might be similar, but you're not going to be exactly the same. You might have some really extreme wiring which makes you incredibly creative and gives you a particular way of looking at the world that allows you to express yourself in a particular way. But you might be really frustrated because your wiring doesn't allow you to control your hand in the way that you really want to, and you can't draw exactly the way you want to. So it's a very frustrating thing as well. So if you are wired up in a particular way, the thing is to learn what are your advantages, what are you really good at, and work with those. Everything else is going to be harder. If you haven't got the particular wiring that's going to give you that really fine motor skill, dexterity to do really detailed drawings, then you're going to get very frustrated trying to do that. Whereas you might be able to just kind of really do big work rather than tiny little work, detailed stuff. So go with what you are good at and make yourself even better at doing it. It doesn't mean you can't look at and appreciate the way other people do things and learn from them. There may be techniques and things you can draw from somebody else and bring them into your work. If you are determined to try and do something which you find difficult, then it's going to really be down to lots and lots of practice and kind of intellectual endeavour to really, really knuckle down and understand it. And it will be really frustrating because other people will come along and just whoosh, do something really simply that you've been trying to do for years and years and years. And even when you've seen them do it, you still can't quite do it yourself. But you will be able to do things that they can't do. And if you really concentrate on the things that you are good at, you will get so much better at them. And it's those sort of 10% at the top of getting really, really good at something that makes you a star artist, that makes you a genius. Now, before the mathematicians get really upset and say, oh, mathematicians are quite creative, they are. So if you look at a standard distribution curve and you've got art at one end and maths at the other, everyone thinks artistic people are so creative. But what happens if you turn the whole thing around into a circle like that? You'll find the mathematicians and the artists come together in terms of creativity. And to be a real genius mathematician requires a lot of creativity and a lot of thinking outside the box, and probably a lot of staring up at the sky saying hello clouds, hello sky, and seeing the world in a totally different way. And that is the job of creative people and artists, is to see the world in a different way and present it back to people who don't quite see it the same way. The average Joes in the middle who don't know much about it, but they know what they like, so that they can go, oh, that's really interesting. Thank you so much for showing me that view of the world. I hope all of that makes some kind of sense to some people. If you are feeling a little bit confused, don't hesitate to make comments or ask questions in the comments box below. I really do answer all my comments on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and make sure you are subscribed to the Shoo Rayner drawing channel, and make sure you ring that bell for notifications when you do. In the meantime, keep drawing, drawing, drawing. Practice, practice, practice. And I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye-bye.